Bowman. Will Bowman.
M.
Doo doo doo. Pew. And this is your weekly Newsish Roundup. So Alex, what do we got going on in the news today?
This week, our news is really busy. There's going to be a rodeo in the Grand coming up very soon. It comes on the heels of a successful relay race. The City of La Grande has received a grant to study the housing crisis. And in our Briefly section, a local community is having its annual fair, and the Chamber of Commerce has a special message for you.
For you, La Grande Alive, only on your weekly Newsish Roundup, brought to you by these, our sponsors. The Grande Ronde Rodeo is coming to La Grande. Yeehaw! The Grande Ronde Rodeo is the first rodeo in La Grande in almost a decade. The Grande Ronde Rodeo is having their second annual event. They're gonna have mutton busting, steer riding, and local barrel racing. Now, locals can enter this, adults and children. You can be a part of this rodeo. And Debbie, who owns Tri-State Rodeo Company and also the Bulls, I got to sit down with her a little bit this week, and one thing that she said is that the Bulls, though that they are like athletes, are a little bit like her family.
We've had several, that one specifically that's now bucking on in the pro shows up in Colorado, that you could just scratch him all day long and he'll walk into the chute, but when the chute opens, it's game on. So you learn that, and you learn something about death as well, and dealing with that, because you lose them. And it can be heartbreaking when you do, and others you probably don't miss as much, because there are those moments, but they are somewhat like family members, and you get to know their personalities and what they can handle, and who gets along with who and who doesn't, and who's having a bad day today.
Now, I asked Debbie why it was important to maintain the rodeo tradition, and she said that many important lessons are taught to the kids by the rodeos, including sportsmanship, and how to work as a team.
Learning to be a good sport and support others. There's many of them, of the events that you'll see. For instance, we raise bulls, and all the bull riders are there helping their buddies get on their bull, and they're competing in the very same event, in the very same rodeo, and against each other, and yet they're first ones to be in there to help each other out. And that sense of pride really carries through the rodeo community.
So Alex, what are the specifics on this rodeo? When's it going to happen? What's going on?
Well, the rodeo will be held at our local Mavericks Arena on August 25th and 26th, 2018. The ICA rodeo is at 6 p.m. and at 1 p.m. Admission is $10 for adults and $5 for children 6 to 14. Under 5 and military get in for free.
Yep, and just in case you didn't know, Mavericks Arena is at the Union County Fairgrounds, and right off to the side of it.
But if we had missed that, you would have been able to find that out by calling 208-741-2510 for more information.
That's the information line for the Grande Ronde Rodeo. This story was brought to you by...
The Elkhorn Relay had their annual relay race this past weekend. Up to about 206 miles, incorporated to start at Hillgard Junction, up across Ukiah, Anthony Lakes, into Baker County, down Highway 203 to Union, before going to Cove and Somerville, and then back to Riverside Park.
So the Elkhorn Relay has teams between 6 and 12 people that run the full spectrum of the 206 miles. Nobody runs the full 206 miles on their own, though there have been people in other relays that have run full 206-mile relays just by themselves. Nobody in this race, however, though they did have one team this year of 6 people, a group of runners from Central Oregon who traveled all the way across the pass to come and run this relay that they had heard so many good things about.
I think not having done the Elkhorn Relay before was definitely a big motivator. And being able to run, these hills out here, as you head out towards Anthony Lakes and out kind of towards the Wallowas, the opportunity to run those is awesome.
And I think coming back over these parts of the country too, here in Oregon, a lot of people don't know what Oregon has to offer.
That's even out here.
And this is a good way to get back and seeing what we do have. This will be our 34th relay. So you think about that, and every relay is different. Every team is different. Yep. You're lucky if you can keep the same cohesive team through the years. So, I don't know, I think it depends on who you're running with that makes the team. You can get with some real cranky people and it just doesn't be fun. Relays are about fun, getting together with friends.
Now, each of those team members ran over 30 miles over the course of 2 days, getting very little sleep and running at some points in the 104-degree temperature. That is a hot run. And speaking as someone who is a runner, heat sucks a lot out of you when you run in it. So to be able to run in 104-degree heat and also complete what is known as an ultra marathon broken up into different groups, that is quite a feat. And not only did they complete it, but they also beat the course record by quite a bit, and they smashed the 6-person team record by I believe it was over an hour. So they had a pretty successful race. Now, that being said, not everyone that runs this race is in it for the winning. A lot of them are just out there to have fun.
Like a really healthy all-night party. I mean, you get, like you get to basically be around a bunch of people, which can be good and bad, for 24 hours or 36 hours, depending on how fast or slow you run it. And you're just around a bunch. There's a fun attitude, especially at the group exchange points. It's sunset and all these people are coming together and there's food and by the end of it, you're just kind of like high on sleep like a sleep and runner's high, and so you finish it. And I had a really good time. Last year was the first year and I really have enjoyed it.
But I had a ton of fun last year with our group and like just everyone being sleep deprived and tired and just having a good time no matter what. So.
I think a lot of us run by ourselves every day, and it gets kind of lonely. And to do something that's a team event, and it inspires you. You don't want to let your other teammates down. I think it makes me a better runner. I think I have my best times when I'm doing a relay, and it's just nice to know there's other crazy runners out there too that really enjoy the sport.
Now, the relay had a special guest this year, Chuck Coates, who is a near 60-year-old runner from Central Oregon. Chuck was an alcoholic, but running actually helped him to recover from his sickness. He spent 19 years not running, being an alcoholic, and since about age 40, he kicked being an alcoholic and has been running. Now, Chuck is not your just casual everyday runner. He ran a 2:40 marathon at age 42, which is nothing to shake a stick at. I am a 27-year-old and I struggle to get under a sub-3 marathon. This guy is serious business. But when I asked him about what his advice to young people was, this is what he said.
Have fun. Bottom line, go out and have fun. Enjoy it. Don't push it to begin with. Too many young people, they'll go out and they'll run hard their first week and they're going to hate it. They're going to go back to the couch, go back to whatever else it was they were doing, because they'll have bad memories, bad thoughts from going out and doing that. Start out slow, especially for newbies. Walk, jog. I call it WOG, okay? Yeah. Walk, jog. It's okay to walk. That's the thing, is so many people get caught up in this, oh, I gotta go out and run, but I can't run with you because you're too fast. Everybody has their own speed, and if if you can find a partner to run with, that's all that much better. But take it slow. It's not a week deal, it's a lifetime deal. And the only way to keep making a lifetime deal is to start out slow, to prevent your injuries, to prevent boredom. Once you get hooked, I kind of say, then the opposite happens, is you're sitting there, and especially with injuries, and you're wanting to go run, and you're climbing the wall, and you become just a very negative person, and nobody wants to be around it. So you need to take it slow, and bottom line is to have fun. If you can have fun, you'll enjoy it for the rest of your life.
Now, if you're interested in knowing more about the Elkhorn Relay, you can find out all the information that you would need on the website for their parent company, Doomsday Racing. They're a quick Google search away, and you can find out all the information you need for whatever purpose.
That was quite inspiring. Thank you to the following sponsors for getting this on the air. Last week, we touched on a local story about the City of LeGrand's housing crisis and looking at tiny houses as a potential solution. Now the state of Oregon is getting involved. The city is receiving funds to investigate and resolve so-called housing crisis. House Bill 4006, passed in the 2018 legislative session, identified LeGrand as a city with a housing crisis where individuals are severely rent burdened. This means anyone paying over 50% of their income towards rent. Now, LeGrand has about 25% of people who qualify as rent burdened. Now, the state allocated money to help city planning departments address this problem, and there are 3 stages that city planner Michael Boquist spoke to Will Bowman about.
Yep, I got a chance to talk with Michael Boquist about what the process is going to be from now to the future of what's going on. And this is kind of what he said. So we are currently in the beginning of stage 1, which is the needs analysis. Essentially, what's going to be happening is the state is going to be funding a study in LeGrand where the questions are going to be asked is there really a problem? If so, what is the problem and who is suffering for the problem? So Michael gave me an analogy that I think is really telling into what this is investigating. He said, many people think that there's a parking problem on Adams. You might be one of those people. But he said, is there really a parking problem on Adams? You may think so because you can't park right next to your place of business or some place that you really like to go to have coffee. Does that mean that there's not necessarily a parking problem? That's up for debate. So the question is there really a problem? And if so, what is the problem? Now, Michael did say he's been listening about this question for quite some time, and what he's hearing is that there is a need in almost every category, he said, but there's more need in some categories than others. So after the study is completed, then they will move into stage 2, which is the strategic plan and code analysis stage. And essentially what they're doing in this stage is saying, how can we solve the problem? How can we solve the crisis for these particular people who we've identified as people who are suffering from it? And this is the stage in which they define what are our options. And some of the examples that he gave were maybe lowering development standards, or maybe not requiring sidewalks around new housing buildings being built, or maybe phasing in property taxes instead of slamming people with them. These might all be code-based issues that are getting in the way of housing developers building reasonable housing for people to live in. Now, after stage 2, there is stage 3, which is actually implementing the strategic plan and fixing the problem. So the first part of this is fixing what Michael called the low-hanging fruit of the problem, which is code issues, just some really basic stuff that can be done almost instantaneously. But there is also the pursuit of more long-term goals that needs to happen. And stage 3 is when those goals are defined and are begun to be implemented. Now, this is not a quick fix. This is not something that is going to happen overnight. But with these funds, Michael hopes, this issue can be more thoroughly investigated, and also we might be able to have a beginning of a solution that we're working towards. Now, one other thing that Michael said he was very excited about was the fact that many of the housing organizations right now that are providing housing, providing support and service for people who are looking for housing are actually beginning to talk to each other. Organizations like Center for Human Development, Community Connection, Grande Ronde Hospital, Eastern Oregon University, and Eastern Oregon Housing are all collaborating and talking to each other and getting together and sharing information, all related to the problem of housing in LeGrand. Michael said with all of these organizations on the same page and with all the information that they have, that he is very confident in our ability to have a very successful study and to get some serious information and begin making steps towards solving the problem. So Alex, what is the timeline for this project being implemented in the different stages?
Well, the city's going to begin work either in September or October, pretty soon from now. By February, they hope to have enough information to put together a presentation for a work session, and then next June, they'll have the project hopefully wrapped up. So
it's a very short timeline, almost a year, which in Michael's mind is a very short timeline. In my mind, that's like, wow, that's a long time, but when you're talking about city programs, I guess that is a short timeline. So big shout out to Michael, and thank you for taking some of your lunch time to sit down with me and talk about this information in depth. And we will cover this study and this subject more as the story develops. This story was brought to you by this sponsor. All right, so we're through our major stories. We got a couple brieflies for you, LeGrand Alive. Alex, what's our first briefly?
The Cove Cherry Fair is finally here. That's right, this weekend, the city of Cove is going to open up at 7 a.m. For a fun run and pancake breakfast, all happening at the Ascension School Camp and Conference Center.
Do not eat the cherries before you go on the fun run. I know this from experience.
You might want to hold the cherries before you go on a hot air balloon, which will be available to ride between 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. For a donation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So some additional things that we've got going on out at the Cherry Fair are the Lions Club Hog Wild Train, some National Guard games, a bouncy house, arts and crafts, a bubble machine, a side A beer garden, live music, and a couple different options for stuffing your face with pie. I believe the adjectives are polite and non-polite. So we will let you decide and figure out what that actually means.
Good stuff.
So one other thing that we've got going on, the Chamber of Commerce is moving forward with Cycle Oregon traveling to LeGrand in September. Alex, what do we got going on with Cycle Oregon?
2,000 cyclists waving their credit card in your face. You may have seen these cryptic emails from the Chamber of Commerce, and they're exactly about this. September 14th, 2,000 cyclists are going to come through LeGrand. They're going to stay the night at Pioneer Park, but not after spending an afternoon and evening in downtown LeGrand, hoping to come to your business. Not just to sample a food or see what you have, but to come back with their families in the future.
Absolutely, and we've got a quick little message from the Chamber of Commerce for you local business owners and just the general public LeGrand Alive that we recorded earlier today.
We, who are at the Chamber of Commerce, that's Union County Chamber of Commerce, are very excited about this. Cycle Oregon is coming to town. Kelly, help me with our little brochure here. Coming to town, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go door to door to all the downtown businesses just to let them know what's happening. This is a big opportunity to showcase Union County, don't you think, Kelly?
Yes, it is.
It's a big opportunity. So we want to showcase this beautiful place we live in. Cycle Oregon is going to have 2,000 riders sleeping and hanging out and eating and drinking beer and buying things here in Union County. On the 14th of September is when they'll be in town, and they're headed back out on the 15th. What's important for all of our downtown businesses to know, and the entire county to know, is please be prepared. We're going to give this to you. You'll have it. Check it out. Call us if you have any questions. Our information is on the back of this, and we will see you tomorrow when we knock on your door downtown. Have a great day.
And that's your weekly Newsish Roundup. This Roundup was brought to you by these guys, our awesome sponsors. And again, I'm Bowman, Will Bowman.
And I'm M.
And we'll see you next week on the weekly Newsish Roundup.